Hi guys, today I'm going to be making some projects using the Simon Says Stamp Sketched Flowers kit, and I'm just going to jump right in. I'm going to be using watercolor paper and the large stamp from the Sketched Flowers stamp set that came in the kit. Stamp that up a couple of times, and I'm going to be using Distress Oxides to do the background of my card. I stamped it first. Distress Oxides are going to end water over the top. Just going to kind of splatter it around, add some more water to make the background. And I did not know that you could do this and not ruin your Copic markers by coloring over it until I saw Kelly Ledavola do it on her video that she just recently put out for Honeybee Stamps. Um, she did the same technique and I had to try it out because I've been wanting to do something like this, but I was afraid I was going to ruin my markers. So I just said, well, she did it and it looks wonderful. And she didn't seem to be concerned at all about her markers. And since she is an awesome colorist, I figured she probably wouldn't do anything to mess up her markers. So I gave it a shot and it didn't mess up my markers at all. They're absolutely fine. I've used them since I made this video a couple of times. So I'm just taking these three colors. I have fossilized amber, peeled paint, and fired brick. And I'm using them in, I don't have an orange and I kind of wanted an orangey color. So I just mixed, the orange, the red and the yellow to make the orange that's on there. And I just kind of went around throwing it wherever I thought it needed it. I'm going to water it down. And I watered it down again with thicker splotches to make, give it a little bit of texture to the finished product. I also have Perfect Pearls in copper and then regular Perfect Pearls. And I just used a paintbrush and some water and I splattered it all over just to give, some sparkle to the card. And then I'm just going to jump right in with my markers and I'm going to start coloring in my image. I pretty sure you can see all of the colors and I probably won't have to tell you, so I'll just zoom in and you can just watch and listen to me ramble on about my new video idea. So I've seen so many 10 cards, one kits, create eights, 5 cards, one kit. Everybody's doing them. I love all of them and I watch them religiously because I think everybody is just so talented and I love watching those videos, but I kind of felt like we didn't really need another one. So one of the things that I like to do with my kits when they come, because that's all I pretty much get are kits now. I don't do a lot of shopping, new release shopping or anything, because I think I've said this before, but my husband recently went back to school to start a new career. Um, we moved to Idaho, and I'm the only one working now while he's in school because that's the way I want it. And so, budget time. It's time to not go out and just blow your money all willy-nilly every day. So I I told him I would go crazy if I didn't at least get some kits to play with every month with some new products because I love to create stuff. So I have three actually, that I get on a monthly basis right now. And I thought it would be kind of fun to do what I'm going to call the 5 and 5. So I figured I gotta have a catchy name like everybody else, so that's what I came up with. It's kind of lame, I know. If you have a better idea, please share it with me, because I'm not super creative when it comes to naming things. So my idea was to take these kits, if possible, because some of these kits is this my idea isn't going to be possible, but especially with this one, it worked out perfectly. I'm going to be doing 5 cards because it is a card kit and 5 of something else. So for this particular kit here, it's working out perfectly because I don't think we're going to get any more autumn kits between now and for the rest of the year. So I'm using this kit to do all of my fall decor for my Thanksgiving table. So I'm going to make 5 cards and then I'm going to make 5 other projects. And for this particular kit, they're going to be 5 home decor projects, mainly for decorating my Thanksgiving table and my sideboard behind my Thanksgiving table. So that's what this particular thing is that I'm doing right now. Is this is going to be placed into a picture frame and it's going to go on the sideboard behind my Thanksgiving table and just as a part of my Thanksgiving decor. And this kit actually works out really good for doing that. Even though some of the sentiments don't go, I had to pull a few sentiments from my stash in order to keep the fall Thanksgiving theme going. But I think it worked out pretty good, and hopefully you guys like the projects that I'm showing you. Unfortunately, it does run kind of long doing a 5 and 5. So what I've decided to do is cut it up into 2 videos, but I'll release them at the same time. So you can watch one and the other right after without having to wait for me to do it the second video. And I'm not going to do them all. It's not going to be all 5 projects on one and 5 cards on the other. They're going to be kind of mix and match, I guess, where I'll do a couple projects and a couple cards on each video. So that way there's a little variety for both of them. So yeah, so that's my idea, and please let me know what you think if you guys are gonna like this. I'm hoping that it'll give you a few more ideas on how to stretch your card kits and make them go a little bit further than just making cards. Even though making cards is fabulous, but there's a whole bunch of other wonderful channels out there to get more card ideas from. Whereas honestly, I use these kits for more than just cards. Most of the time I'll make a few cards. I'll show you on the video what cards I made using that kit, and the rest of the items go to making something else. I've made pillows, I've made runners, table runners, I've made tons of things. And you'll see by the end of this video what I do with the Simon Says stamp kit for this month. So here I'm just finishing up the last of my coloring, and I thought these were real pretty colors. They all went together really nicely. Got some yellows and oranges and purples, which is what I wanted for the background. And I did break down and go out and purchase the purple oxide, so I will be able to use it in future videos. I'm slowly but surely building up my oxides, and luckily for Simon Says kits, they are really good about my stash builders. Because they usually tend to send you full size product. So I've actually gotten a couple of these oxides in the kits, the past kits, which if you've gotten any of these kits, that I think the Simon Says is probably my favorite. I also get the Tonic Studios kit and the Hedgehog Hollow kits. So those are the ones that you're going to see me do the most of. So now I've finished up my coloring of my image. I'm adding just a little bit of shimmer pen to the leaves just to give it a little bit like it needs any more sparkle. If you saw this in person, you would think why I need more sparkle. But I don't have very many of the sentiment die, the word dies, so I had to use my letters and make thankful. I just cut it out 3 times each letter out of black cardstock and glued them together, and then attached them to my panel. I got that frame at Michael's. I think it was like 60% off, so it was pretty cheap. Put it in the frame, and that was it. For this was a mistake. So the first time I tried to do the frame, this is what happened. I wanted to double stamp. I wanted to go back and do the black over it again to make it pop, and because that's what Kelly did and I wanted to do it. Well, it didn't work for me. I ended up making a mess out of it, and you can see it double stamped. So rather than throw it in the trash, because there's a lot of work put into that, I just decided to make a card out of it. So I cut down my panel using the Stitch Rectangle die, cut down another panel using what color was that? I want to say burnt orange that came in the kit, and then I'm using not the bright yellow because that was too bright for this, so that's one from my stash, just a yellow cardstock that I cut down to make an A2 size card base. And then the worst of the double stamping was on the little yellow part at the bottom, so I'm just going to cover it up with my sentiment Thinking of You, which came out of the Simon Says stamp Sketched Flowers stamp set. For my next card, I'm going to be making, what did I do here? Oh, I embossed onto watercolor paper again using some embossing powder that I found in my drawer. I didn't even know I had. It's by Recollections, and it's kind of like a grayish silver, sparkly, metallic looking embossing powder. Absolutely gorgeous, and you'll see it right now. I don't know why I bought it and stuck it in the drawer, but that was when I was buying things and I just didn't even use half of the things that I bought. But now I'm a little more careful about what I buy. But this is absolutely beautiful, and I wanted to see how it would color. So I'm going to use my Zig markers, and I'm not going to show you all of the coloring because I did that in the last part. Just going to go over it with a few of the same type of colors that I used on all my other cards, with the oranges and the reds and the purples and the yellows and the greens. And for this one, I'm going to be fussy cutting out the image, so I'm not going to color all of them. I'm only going to color a few of them, so I'd probably only show you a couple of flowers here. I didn't even need to color that in because that is impossible to fussy cut for me. I can't fussy cut that out. But I did use some of the other images, and I did stamp some extras so that I could put it around the actual bouquet part that I'm going to be fussy cutting out from the original big image. So here I'm just using some yellows, a couple different, and using my water brush to thin them out a little bit. And next I'm going to be using some more of the burnt orange as my card base, and this is how I match up my colors. I took all my Zig markers on some watercolor paper, and I put every single color that I have on there so that I can take it and just sit it next to whatever it is that I'm trying to match up color-wise, and find the colors that I think work the best, and that's how I pick them. When I'm using my Copic markers, I have a hex chart, and I use the hex chart to match colors to paper. But the Zigs, I don't have a hex chart for, so I just made that little cheat sheet. The other thing that I did with my Zigs is I took a hole punch and I punched out a bunch of pieces, a bunch of holes from watercolor paper. I colored them in, and then I put the number of the marker on the top cover, and because I store them in the original container that they came in, and that way I can see them, the color that I'm looking for right there on the top, and I don't have to dump all the markers out to pick which ones I'm going to use to color with. So this is another one of the things that I didn't need to color in because I'm not going to fussy cut that out. This stamp set I don't believe came with a die set or didn't have one available to use. So, but it's not that hard to fussy cut out. The hardest things were the leaves. Those were a little bit difficult to get around all of um, the little centerpieces right there were a little bit difficult to cut, but for the most part they weren't too bad. And the rose is obviously super easy to cut. And this, because I used this embossing powder, I didn't want any type of an edge on it. I wanted to go. I cut them straight up to the line. Here I just took some. That's. I'm not sure. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure who makes that paper. If you know, leave it in the comments if other people want to find it. But it came from a kit that I got a long time ago, probably last year's fall, one of last year's fall kits. But the colors went so well with what I was doing that I wanted to use it as my background. I also took an embossing folder. It's a Sizzix embossing folder, and I used it on some of the distress paper from the Tim Holtz distress paper, and then I used a little sander and I sanded off the embossed area so that the yellow could show through. And I made a mistake right here because I shouldn't have glued it. I shouldn't have taped it down because I had cut out some stems from some green paper, and I wanted to make a little bow around that part, and I needed the twine to go behind that embossed folder paper right there, so I had to pull it up so that I could run the twine behind it. I shouldn't say twine, I think it's called jute. So I just kind of wrap it around a few times, and then I'll just push my paper back down onto the card. And I'm just going to trim it and stick it behind where there's already, the tape is already back there, and that will hold it in place. Then I'm going to take, I think it's called seam binding. I had bought a bunch of seam binding a long time ago, and I dyed them in different colors. I've got pinks and blues, and this particular one is tea dyed. And I just took a glue dot and I adhered my tea dyed seam binding to my card, and now I'm just going to attach my stems and trim them down. Now I'm going to start figuring out where I'm going to place my little bouquet on this card. So that I have popped up on some foam dimensionals, and I'm just sitting it there trying to figure out where I'm going to put everything. And now I'm just going to adhere my bouquet, and that's my finished, oh, sentiment, sorry about the sentiment. So I took the hello from the stamp set, and I used that same embossing powder and embossed the word hello and popped that up onto the card, and now that card is finished. And it's got quite a bit of sparkle, so I didn't add anything else to it. That's the end of that card. For my next project, this is a piece of the Yupo paper that I did some alcohol blending on. Then I did some lifting on with a leaf, like an autumn leaf stamp, and I used the Gina K foil paper on it before it completely dried. And the video for that is the one right before this one that I let out. It's the Hello Fall card. So if you want to see that technique, that's on the Hello Fall card. And I'm also going to do it again in the next video, so you'll see it again. But for this one, I'm going to make, it's one of those wine, you put that over the top of the wine bottle. It's like a gift tag. So here's the dimensions for it right here. 8 8 3/4 tall, 3.5 wide, and scored at 5 1/4. And then just any 2-inch circle that you have at the top, right above the score line, and that's where you hang it on the wine bottle. And now I'm going to run my panel through my die cut with a stitched rectangle die, and I'm going to adhere the Yupo paper down to my wine bottle tag. And I used the Gina K design foil card, the one with the leaves on it. I ran it through with the foil, and then I colored them with my Copic markers. And the sentiment, I had to cut it apart because of the way that the leaves were. You couldn't get into the sentiment and get the leaves out without cutting into them. So this is what I ended up doing with the sentiment. And then that is just the same black cardstock that I used for the base of the wine bottle tag. And I'm going to pop that up using, this is just some extra pieces of the foam that I used to pop it up with. And now I'm going to glue down my sentiment, and I ended up making them into strips and just adhering the strips to my cardstock. And this is, there's always something to be grateful for. And then I'm going to take the leaves, 2 of the leaves that I cut out from this foil card, and I'm going to pop up the part that's going to be lower than, and then glue the other part, and I'm going to put them on the wine bottle tag to decorate. I think this came out so pretty. So if you're bringing wine as a gift for dinner, you make one of these tags and pop it on the top. This is also going to be sitting on my sideboard behind the table with wine glasses and a picture frame. So pop up this one, the red leaf. I didn't end up using the green one. I'm not sure, I might use it in on another project. But I'm going to add some from the sparkly sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. And these sequins pick up the color behind it, and I wasn't thinking when I put them on that it was just going to pick up the black cardstock, but it still looks pretty because it still gives it some sparkle on the top. So I'm just going to add those. And see, it's just black. And there's my bottle of wine, and you just hang it over the top, and that's what it looks like. So that's my finished wine bottle topper. And we're on to the last project for video 1 in the 5 and 5, and I'm going to be making a card using another one of the Gina K foil cards. I'm going to run that through my laminator with some foil from the same from the kit, and I'm going to color in my sunflowers with some various, I'm using the Copic markers. I'm just using the yellows and the greens and the browns for the centers of the marker for the sunflowers. And then I'm going to use my stitched rectangle die and I'm going to cut it down. This card's super simple. Just took a piece of brown that didn't come in the kit, but it's just from my stash, some brown cardstock that I cut down to A2 size, and I'm going to attach the Yupo paper panel, not Yupo paper, silly, the Gina K foil card to it. And then I felt like it just needed a little bit of something else, so I took some, I think it's like natural colored string, and I just kind of tied it around between the flowers and the sentiment. And I just tied a knot. I thought if I put a bow on there, you're not going to be able to read the sentiment. So I just trimmed them down, and I just left it as a knot, just to give it a little bit of something, a little bit of dimension on the front of the card. And I still didn't think there was enough, so I went in and I grabbed my perfect pearls, and not perfect pearls. Yeah, I can't even think of the word of them. But I ended up putting on way more than I should have because I went a little crazy with the Nuvo drops. And so I ended up going back, which you won't see it this time, but I ended up going back and adding some pearls, which you'll see in the photos after I'm done here. So stay tuned for video number 2. It'll be coming up here pretty soon. Actually, it should be released at the same time as this one, so you'll be able to see it, and I'll catch you back here in just a few. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.